we've known that there was trouble. We thought that the beginning of the season was going to, kick us out of that.
We wanted to share some of our surprises and disappointments from this season. I'll go first. I'm going to start with one of my surprises of the season. My first one was the Cleveland Guardians. I mean, we talked about it a little bit ago last segment about how we both had them finishing at the bottom of the AL Central, and they come back, they win the division, they win the wild card round when we were both picking against them. Thought that the Rays were going to beat them, but they didn't. And then they gave the Yankees all that they had in the division series.
All of them, all that they had.
That was my biggest surprise of the season, and good on them for getting there and competing the way that they did. I think that they are going to be a problem in the division in 2023. I think because the White Sox are supposed to be the cream of that division, but they have not been. And I think it's going to be the Guardians, at least this year, maybe not the year next as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was equally surprised by that. My number one surprise for this season was Baltimore Orioles. Like literally, they came out of nowhere, and that second half they had once they brought Adley Rutschman up, and then when Gunnar showed up as well, like it was just insane. But I mean, you got to give all the credit to Adley Rutschman. They finished, the record was 83-79. That's better. That's good enough for fourth place in the AL East. And we didn't think they were going to finish that low toward the end of the season. We thought they were creeping up even higher than that.
They were making a run at the playoffs. They were looking like they were going to get a wild card spot.
Dude, it was crazy. So I think this is their first winning season in like 8 years or something crazy. It's like a billion years.
It's been a long time. It feels like it's been a billion.
That's right, since they've been above 500. And so I just think it's crazy. They went from one of the lowest attended ballparks in the major leagues for that first half of the season to a respectable attendance, which just shows to show you that, Baltimore fans especially, I mean, every fan's this way, but Baltimore fans especially want to show up and watch their ball club win. And when they do, they're going to throw down support, and it happened, and it's exciting. So
they finished 89-73 in 2016 and lost in the wild card round. They had a stretch 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 5 years in a row where they finished at or above 500. But then before that, it was 97. They finished.
See what I'm saying?
64. Yeah,
it's been a really long time.
Yeah, and those years, those 5 years they finished those. Those were Chris Davis's heydays,
right?
And Manny Machado was in town.
Yeah,
that was a big deal. So, yeah,
there you go. That's my biggest surprise.
Huge surprise. My other big surprise this season was Justin Verlander. Everybody, like, they were talking about how he was throwing gas when he's coming back off of his rehab and everything like that. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll wait though, because he's old guy coming off Tommy John. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for him to fall off a cliff this year. And part of that was the fact that he's a division rival, right?
Yeah.
But the other part was he's 39. He just came off Tommy John surgery.
That's right.
Yeah, I was not expecting the year that he had this year. That was outstanding. Absolutely amazing year for him.
My number 2 biggest surprise was the rookies across the league this year. We have rookie sensations. I already mentioned Adley Rutschman. You get Michael Harris II, Spencer Strider, Jeremy Pena, Stephen Kwan. I mean, on and on. The rookies just showed up this year, and it was Julio,
Yeah.
It was crazy. O'Neal Cruz. This year was full of rookie sensations making their splash, and they're going to be around for a long time. So yeah, I did not see that wide band of rookies showing up.
If those guys continue on the trajectory that they're on, the league is in great hands.
Yep.
I think that's a great one. Okay, we should have started negative and gone positive. Instead, we're going to start positive and go negative. Disappointments. My biggest disappointment was the Dodgers. Yes, they won 111 games. Yes, they had that great season. And yes, Dave Roberts predicted that they would win the World Series. No, he guaranteed it. But they lost in the division series. Like, you can't do that if you won 111 games. You've got to at least make it to the league championship series. Even the Mariners, who won 116 games 2001, made it to the ALCS before they got knocked out of the playoffs. Like, you've got to move on beyond the division series if you're going to win that many games. Otherwise, it's meaningless.
Right.
So yeah, that's my big one.
So I'm going to stay in California with my disappointment. Is how the Angels started the season and then totally melted down to the point where they had to remove Joe Madden partway through. I've been a big fan of Joe for a long time, and I think the whole situation in Anaheim is super sad, and it just sucks for everybody involved. So we've known that there was trouble. We thought that the beginning of the season was going to, kick us out of that, and we all thought, okay, here we go. April looked great, May looked pretty good, and then boom, and then it was over.
Yep.
So that sucks. It just sucks for baseball. I don't care who you are.
It got so bad that the owner is like, I'm done. The owner wants out. It's so bad.
Yeah. That's a huge disappointment for me.
And as a division rival, I'm kind of like, that's fine.
Yeah. But as a baseball fan, you got to be upset about it.
Yeah, like you don't like to see teams be like play like that. And the thing is like they were so bad for such a long stretch that they could never dig themselves out of that hole. They started playing pretty well in August and September, but they were in such a deep hole that there was no daylight. Zero.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big time disappointment as a baseball fan. I absolutely agree with you. Okay, and then my other disappointment was the handling of the lockout. And like they're always ugly, right?
Yeah.
Because each team is playing the PR game and the propaganda game, trying to pit the fans against the other side, whatever. But my thing is like the fans don't care who wins or loses the lockout.
Not really.
All we care about is whether the game gets played. Like, I don't care that the owners are like, well, we're paying them this much because we're getting this much revenue, but they're not willing to take it. And then I don't care either that necessarily the players are like, well, but there's this much revenue, but we're not getting this. I don't honestly really care. I just want to watch baseball.
Yeah.
That's it.
At a high competitive balance.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All I care is that the league is balanced, and which I feel like is a thing despite like there is disparity, right?
Yeah.
Between the Dodgers winning 111 games and the Nats losing 107. Like, I understand that there's a disparity, but the fact that we have not had a repeat World Series champion, there has been no dynasty in Major League Baseball since the Yankees at the end of the 90s. To me, that says a lot about the balance of the league. So baseball is doing something right on that side, but the lockout itself was just so bad. All of it was so bad. And both sides have got to do better next time that this thing comes up because it was ugly.
Yeah, I agree.
So what you got for
you're making me want to change my second pick. That was really persuasive. So I have a couple that are tied for my number 2 most disappointing thing, but I think that everything about the Freddie Freeman deal was disappointing.
Oh yeah, the way that all that came out, that was
the way the press handled it, the way the agents handled it, the fact that he didn't stay in Atlanta is just so sad for everyone but Freddie Freeman. Like, he's the only one winning here. I don't even think Dodgers fans are all that thrilled about Freddie Freeman. I think that it's great for them. I think it's fine, but it's not like, yes, we got him. I don't think they feel that way. Whereas friggin' Atlanta fans are still mourning, like they're still not over it. And that's noteworthy. This goes back to what I was saying earlier about these franchise players who are going to be generational legends, right? This is a Dale Murphy situation. This is a Chipper Jones type situation where, can you imagine the history of the Atlanta Braves without Chipper Jones? Like, just think about it for a minute. If he had been traded out when he started to flag a little bit in the latter part of his career, and they were like, fine, get out of here. And then he went and had decent year somewhere else. Like, everything about the way we interact with baseball would change. And I think that that's what happened with the Freddie Freeman deal. I know I'm blowing it a little bit out of proportion. I got that. But I also think, like, as a larger narrative on how baseball is operating right now, it's just plain sad.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting you say that the Dodgers fans aren't like super thrilled, because I think you're right that it's just kind of like, okay, he's another guy in our all-star lineup.
Yep.
right? Another all-star, but he actually had a better year this year than he did
He
in
totally did.
2021 with Atlanta.
No, he totally did. That's
But
the
it was so expected by Dodgers fans and by probably the rest of the league that it's kind
yeah.
of like poo-poo, even though he was finished fourth in MVP voting.
Yeah, no kidding. No, he had an amazing year. I
Yeah,
just wish he'd have done it in Atlanta and that they'd have found a way to work out a deal. That's
yeah,
all. It's just
yeah.
disappointing.
I wonder if the Braves, seeing the effect of Freddie Freeman leaving that franchise, like the effect that it seemed to have had on the clubhouse, right? Because there was something missing
There
in the
was.
playoffs. And
Hmm.
I don't know that necessarily a veteran leadership by a guy like Freddie Freeman has that big of an impact on it, but there was something missing in the playoffs. And I wonder if they're going to consider things like that going forward with guys they let leave. But I
Who
don't know.
knows? Because
Who's to say?
Olsen had a great year.
He
He came
did.
in and had a great year. So I don't know. I just think I continue to be disappointed by it. That's all.
Yeah. And I think that's valid. Do you have one more disappointment for us, Brig?
Yeah, the Yankees melted down
Oh, yeah. There's
after they
that.
went and just cruised and cruised and cruised. I mean, we thought, like you said earlier, a collision course with the Dodgers, and then it just turned out to be this just I don't know. I don't even know what happened. I know it was so sad. They were like historic pace and all this, and then nothing. And then they eked their way into the playoffs and then barely put up a fight at all.
Yeah. That the way that they got knocked out in the ALCS was ugly.
Yeah.
So ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
So
almost
I
like
could
they
see
had no
that.
business being there.
Yeah, I could see that, especially as a Yankees fan, that being a
Yeah.
major disappointment.